You know, the other day when I was uploading my video about why we didn't need a Morbius movie, I got to thinking about cinematic universes. Of course, everybody is familiar with the MCU, and then there's the DCEU, which unfortunately hasn't been as successful. The Monsterverse kinda counts, I guess. Star Wars is quickly moving into that direction of format. And then there was The Mummy starring Tom Cruise, which was a failed attempt at making another one as well. However, as I was playing Super Smash Bros. Ultimate later that night, something popped into my head. What if there was a Nintendo Cinematic Universe? I think it's a concept that might happen if planned properly, and it'd be better to do something like that when the hype for the Cinematic Universe format dies down a little, as well as Marvel and DC's popularity. That way, Nintendo can have their time to shine. So give it a few more years, give or take. And I know some of you are thinking, well, don't we already have one? We already had a Super Mario Bros. Movie in the 1990s, as well as an upcoming animated one, which I am not impressed with so far, as well as 2 Sonic the Hedgehog movies, as well as a Detective Pikachu flick. So I would say no, all of those don't count. A cinematic universe format is obviously one where a group of movies or franchises interleave and exist in the same continuity or universe, and they will eventually build up to a big event. After all, Marvel Studios started with 2 Iron Man movies, The Incredible Hulk, Thor, and the first Captain America, and had them star together in The Avengers, arguably my favorite Marvel movie probably ever. Then Warner Brothers started with Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, and Wonder Woman, and then put Justice League into commission, although I will argue their attempt was obviously rushed, and that all their movies on this list aren't great, except for Wonder Woman, which is okay at best. Even Legendary's Monsterverse had 2 Godzilla movies and Kong Skull Island before having the 2 Monster Titans fight in Godzilla vs. Kong. You start to get the point. But anyways, I find that this should be something easy to accomplish on Nintendo's part. However, I don't find that their current slate of movies would ever seem to fit on one current continuity, especially the upcoming animated Mario movie, although if you think differently, you can prove your point in the comments. Obviously, we would need to start with about half dozen or so films before eventually culminating in a Smash Bros. Team-up blockbuster. The roster would essentially be like the Avengers or Justice League, and these heroes could be together until they potentially split apart at a later point. Before we get into that, what movies could we potentially start with before we culminate in Smash Bros. 1? For one, we would need at least one Mario flick, not counting the one that's upcoming. Whether or not it would adapt any Super Mario Bros. Games, I'm not sure, as this has been done plenty of times already. There's new Super Mario Bros. For the Wii U, that seems like a great pick. There's also Super Mario World, or maybe the game's adventure is too much for one 2-hour movie and needs split into 2 parts, which I think might be better, and this would also be the case for Legend of Zelda. And speaking of Zelda, that would be number 2. Ocarina of Time would be a great game to adapt to the big screen, but I feel like this story would be too expansive for one movie, as I would want proper time for proper character development and room for a good hero's journey. I also feel like the concepts of the timelines would also be better for a part 2 film rather than part 1, as part 1 should really focus on starting Link's adventure. Some of you really like Breath of the Wild, but if there was ever a 3rd or 4th installment, I would probably rather save it for that, especially if Twilight Princess ever came into play. Thirdly, I would assume that there would be at least one Pokemon film before Smash Brothers. We already had one mainstream movie out, that was Pokemon Detective Pikachu, but I think another one will probably suffice. Whether or not it will be an arena fight scenario, or something that covers the origins of the Pokemon and how Ash became a trainer, I don't know. I'm going to be honest, I haven't actually sat down and played a Pokemon game before, nor have I ever owned one, so I'm probably the wrong guy to talk about this. Fourthly, and this is one I would especially look forward to, is a Star Fox film. Star Fox 64 is a great game, and it would be a grand opportunity to adapt that into a motion picture. Here's one I gave intriguing thought into, and that is Punch-Out! Maybe it wouldn't have to be something artistically creative like Martin Scorsese's Raging Bull, or as inspiring as the Rocky movies. but it could serve as a great, entertaining film. Number 6, a Mega Man movie would be great, and would probably be the last one of 2 Super Smash Bros. Hits. Now, as we get into Smash Bros., it's important to think on what the plot could be and what the character rosters will consist of. As far as the plot goes, I think the heroes will meet because their respective villains are making their own evil team up, so they will have to fight them. I think the heroes team should consist of maybe no more than 8 or 9 people. That way the audience can start out easy and not have to balance too many characters. After all, I don't think I'd want to go into the first Smash movie with the complete gaming lineup of Ultimate, especially if we don't have an emotional connection with most, if not all, of these characters. So I see the Smash team in the first movie consisting of Mario, Luigi, Link, Fox McCloud, Falco, Little Mac, Mega Man, Ash with Pikachu, and maybe Charizard if he needs him, or maybe some other Pokemon you might think is better suited. Other than that, I think the team lineup is pretty much good for the first movie. Don't need any more characters. Now, I did mention about them fighting their respective villains, so that would consist of Bowser, maybe even his son Bowser Jr., Ganondorf, King K. Rool, a potential evil Pokemon, Andross, so on and so forth. We could also set up the appearances of Dr. Eggman, King Dedede, Meta Knight, and more, but I feel like those villains were already in the movie fighting against their respective heroes like Sonic, Kirby, and so on. Afterwards, I'm honestly not sure where individual movies could go. I could see a Star Fox sequel movie as well as another Pokemon movie, and perhaps a Mii movie that takes place on Woohoo Island, as well as a Sonic and Tails team-up. Not to mention the introduction of Kirby, which I think might be a hard one to grasp, as I've never been a big fan of those games, and I'm not sure how fans would think about a Kirby movie, especially one that's just very, very poor. Story-wise, Melee could continue with plenty more characters, but I feel like this is the point where the team could start to grow apart. Brawl would be like Captain America Civil War, where hero fights hero. Smash 4 maybe could be like Infinity War, but yeah, hence on maybe. And then Ultimate is the obvious endgame. As far as I can tell, everything in this Nintendo Cinematic Universe would lead to Ultimate. Ultimate is the endgame in the MCU. But what would happen in Ultimate as a story? Could it adapt the World of Light storyline from the game, or do something else entirely? And would it be possible if the MCU had its own take on the multiverse just like Marvel and DC? After all, The Legend of Zelda does have its own separate timelines, even though I can never remember specifically which game goes into which timeline. It's definitely something to think about. Also think about the big final battle in Ultimate, in which we could have multiple Links, numerous Marios, and so many variations of groups, all of which have now included the full roster of Nintendo characters. If done right, this would be epic. That's honestly what I see as a viable Nintendo Cinematic Universe as of now, but whether or not that will actually happen within the next decade or two, I don't know. Video games are pretty popular right now, in fact, more popular than movies, it turns out, so it would seem like a missed opportunity if this was not done at all, or at least not done right. Could Smash Bros. Be done as separate movies without a cinematic universe format? Let me know in the comments below. Then I thought about a potential film series, but it's just the Mario games. How would that story go? I would say that a good starting place is potentially Yoshi's Island, when of course they are children, but maybe split that into 2 movies so everything is properly fleshed out. That way we can get a proper hour and a half, maybe 2-hour movie, and not everything is rushed. Then the next movie would be the adaptation of Donkey Kong, when he's in a city and there's Pauline and stuff. The Mario Bros are grown up at this point. Mario's a carpenter, and Luigi would probably be off doing Luigi's Mansion stuff in the meanwhile before meeting up with Mario at the end of the movie. You could even throw a little Mario vs. Donkey Kong in there for good measure. Speaking of which, there would also be a Luigi's Mansion movie, and Dark Moon I think would be a great adaptation. One character I thought about getting his own movie is none other than Wario. Sure, WarioWare might be a nice adaptation, but what if Wario was more like Deadpool and his film was R-rated? I don't know, I know some of you are like, what? But Wario to me seems like a guy who would be telling dirty jokes and do inappropriate things in his own movie. But I don't know, that's just me. Then of course we would have to adapt Mario Brothers. No, not Super Mario Brothers, just Mario Bros, where they encounter the creatures coming out of the pipes, and then that's when they would go into Mushroom Kingdom, ditching New York City for a while. One Nintendo movie I desperately want to see, and maybe I'll be the one to make it someday, is Donkey Kong Country. It's my favorite game ever, specifically the version for the Game Boy Color. That would be so much nostalgia for me. You could probably throw a little bit of Tropical Freeze in there for good measure. Ultimately, I want to keep it as close to the original as possible. Now here's where things get tricky. How do we adapt Super Mario Bros.? Super Mario Bros. U would be a good possibility, as well as Mario Land, 3D Land or World, as well as regular Mario World, and of course there's Super Mario Bros. 2 with the gold. I'm talking about the new one, so there's a start. Mario Kart would be a hard one to accomplish because it wouldn't need a great racing plot, including a good reason for Mario to race against Bowser, and maybe it would need a Fast and Furious kind of style of action scene. Fans might hate that, but it's a start. Some of you might also want a Super Mario Odyssey movie, but honestly, I've never played it before. But in any case, we'll leave it on the table. Super Mario 64, as much as I like both versions of the game, I do not think would make for a good movie, and would either 1, be better as a miniseries, or 2, not to be made at all. Then there's the possibility of Hotel Mario, which we'll quickly throw that idea in the trash because that would be as bad as the game, if not worse. But oh well, maybe we'll throw an All Toasters Toast Toast reference somewhere in the Mario-verse. Mario Party, as much as I like Mario Party DS, would not make for a great movie. And I feel like other games such as Dr. Mario, Paper Mario Sunshine, or maybe anything that involves sports, probably won't work out either. One other possibility is something like Bowser's Inside Story, or maybe even Dream Team. Of course, there's Mario vs. Sonic, but I'm very unsure about those, so we'll just ignore them. However, the only way I see this separate Mario-verse culminating into one big event would possibly be an adaptation of the Super Mario Galaxy movies, which I think would make for great films. But it wouldn't end there, because what if we had our own multiverse, sort of a Spider-Man No Way Home kind of scenario, but with Mario? I think it would be really cool and would explain why the castles look different across different Mario games, as they would essentially be different iterations of Mario. And of course, the Peach Castle obviously looks different in games like 64, Mario Kart games, any rendition of Super Mario Brothers, etc. There could also be a scenario when there's a rowdy where maybe Bowser defeated the Mario Bros. And they're basically dead. So it's basically a dark world. Bowser has conquered everything. Oh dear. This multiverse could also reference the official games in some sort of continuity, if the games ever had any, which I don't recall they ever did. I don't know. Between this and Nintendo Cinematic Universe, I guess Nintendo will have a lot on their plate, but it just seems like a pretty good idea and something that could really, really happen. Anyway, thanks for tuning in today, thanks for watching. I know this is cliched, but do subscribe. I only have about 17 at the time this video being recorded, so definitely get 20th Century Dude out there. Have a good day. Let's go.
Thank you so much for playing my game.